alive. Prenuptial agreements are becoming a much more common part of the conversation for couples before marriage, especially for younger folks. We had this for you on the 9 early this week, and boy, we are still talking about it. Bloomberg published a report finding more than half of all engaged or married Americans under the age of 45 say they have signed a prenup. People are using them to protect everything from their investments and inheritances to student loan debt. Once thought to be only for the ultra-rich, they're increasingly being seen as a practical way for couples to have open, honest conversations about finances before they say I do. So let's get some good insight by turning to Amy Laughlin, a founding and managing partner of Laughlin Legal. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you find this to be true in your practice?
Absolutely. Okay. We're seeing more and more individuals asking for prenuptial agreements. I think there are 3 reasons for it. One is people are getting married later, and so they're coming into their marriages with more significant assets. I think another important thing about millennials and Gen Zs are they really want to have open and honest conversations prior to getting married. They see marriage as a partnership, and they see that clear disclosure prior to marriage will strengthen their marriage.
And by the time they've got to you, they've already had the conversation, right? But do you have any advice, or have you heard how couples can successfully start a conversation? Because it can be very offensive. Like, what do you mean you don't want to give me? You know what I mean? It's people feel it's not the right foot to start off a blessed union.
I totally understand, and I see that sometimes. I do think the conversation should start between the couple first, not one person going off to the lawyer, because when you present your soon-to-be spouse with an agreement that you haven't spoken to them about, it really can be off-putting. So I think really coming to terms together, and then finding 2 lawyers. Each side needs somebody to represent them. 2 lawyers who can work cooperatively together to make this happen. And something else I would add, start way early. Start 6 months before the wedding. Don't wait until the month before the wedding where you're discussing terms of a prenuptial agreement while you're picking out your flowers.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That's quite a damper. How have you seen couples successfully navigate changes to an agreement?
Changes to an agreement can be more difficult. Do you mean prior to marriage?
Well,
or
yeah,
after?
I guess, like, let's just take my husband and I. He has his ideas. I have mine. We each have our own lawyers. He thinks X, I want Y. How do we come together?
So you can either come together through a sort of mediated process where you're working with a neutral, or your attorneys can help negotiate that by having in-depth conversations with you and understanding really what's behind these requests and why they're important to you.
Okay, I see. And finally, I mean, not finally, we could talk about this for an hour. Is it always money that's in the agreement, or are there other things?
Oh, there are all kinds of other things. You can agree to anything as long as it's not a violation of California law or otherwise illegal. People put in provisions that after they're married for so long, then spousal support will increase if there's to be a divorce. If children are involved, there might be a greater division of assets if there is an unlikely divorce.
How do you handle it if a parent of one person in the couple wants the prenup, but the 2 folks getting married don't?
We see this a lot. A lot of times parents are driving one individual or another to get a prenup. And what I would say to the parents is inheritance is always separate property. A lot of times it's driven by wanting to protect that inheritance, but that's always separate property under California law.
Got it. What happens without a prenup? Let's say, Susie and Jimmy fall in love, get married, have no prenup, 10 years later they split. Absence of any agreement, what does California law dictate?
The California law dictates that all income or all assets and liabilities accumulated during a marriage are community property. So that's the presumption. And so you would start right from there.
Okay. And finally, real quick, is it okay, like, let's say we start off and Susie's not working, Jimmy's the breadwinner, but then tables turn. Can you go back and amend a prenup deep into the marriage?
You can go back and amend a prenup deep into the marriage, but it's much more difficult. A court sees people negotiating a prenup prior to marriage as having an equal bargaining platform, but after marriage, you're not in an equal position, and so they're more they're questioned, the post-nups.
Okay, all right, good to know. Get your business done now. Amy, Laughlin, we could talk for an hour, and I've long been married, and we didn't have these talks, but thankfully things have turned out okay. You're a founding and managing partner of Laughlin Legal. I appreciate it, and it's good insight to a story that we're still talking about in the newsroom days later. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course.